All right. D'Angelo Pons. We're going to do some film on him. You've been texting me about Pons for the last couple of weeks. That of all the film breakdowns you've done, this has been one of the more enjoyable ones that you've ever did.
Yeah. I like, in terms of value for the pick, I think this may be one of my favorite picks over the last decade and a half for the Jets, which
wow.
But realistically, like somebody asked me on my stream the other day, like, hey, since the 2020 season, what are the Jets' best value picks? And I went through all the picks. I'm like, there's really not a ton of good value, Like Sherwood was, obviously Michael Carter II was, like we had like Bryce Hall for a minute who, played for a few weeks as a starter. So like I guess that was, and Tippmann, but maybe that speaks more to the Jets, but nonetheless, regardless, I really, really like the film. And I think it's a legitimate statement that if he were to, suddenly somehow gain 2 or 3 inches before the draft, he's probably a top half of the first round type of pick.
I mean, sign me up, because I think with Pons, we all knew that there was a lot to like with him. It was just his height and how can he overcome that at the NFL level. And as we're going to go through some clips here, I think Jet fans are going to leave this film breakdown being like, yeah, this guy can play everywhere on the field. I'm not really worried about his height. He makes up for it with everything else he brings to the table. So, all right, I'm pulling up your screen right now, Joe. So this first play here, point out Pons, because obviously he's all over the field in a lot of these clips. So you just kind of give us a feel for what we're looking at.
Yeah, a good amount of them. After like the first 3 or 4 plays, I'm going to have like an hour on them because I put a lot of these plays on Twitter. But yeah, guy inside, outside, versatile or versatility. We'll talk about the fit, I'm sure, later, and exactly where we expect him to be or where I expect him to be. Indiana's film is actually a little bit grainy at times, so I apologize that at the end of this, it's a little bit grainy, but it's not me. I'm just kind of going in chronological order here with how these plays happen throughout the season. But I have like maybe 10-ish positive plays and like 3 negatives where you can see some of the size on the outside, and it does hurt him in certain instances, but again, we'll hit on that in a little bit. So he's to the top of the screen right here, ends up getting a pass deflection. I'll try to play these plays first, and then we can watch it after or talk about it after. So to the top of the screen gets the pass deflection on the, looks like a hinge route right there, which is just like an outside stemmed curl route. And Pons does a really good job, and we're going to see this throughout the review at least a few times where he does a very good job reading the quarterback's drops, and he's a very smart player. So they're rotating in what looks like it's like a fire zone 3. So you have 3 under, 3 over the top, and Pons is one of the deep outside third corners here. But when you read the quarterback here, right, typically drops are in accordance with the route. So if it's a short drop, 3-step drop, and he's looking your way, especially because you're isolated, right? So the fact that he's isolated and his eyes are there quickly, he's obviously truly reading this route. So if it's a 3-step drop, okay, maybe it's a slant. 5-step drop, maybe more of an intermediate route like a dig. If it's a 7-step drop, we're looking at a post or vertical typically, right? Now, if it's like a double move, then maybe that's out the window, but nonetheless, isolated receiver. So he's definitely reading him to the top here. What is the drop looking like? Pons is going to gather that information while kind of having this receiver in his peripheral vision. Reads the quarterback, short drop, looking his way. You can see him sort of like kind of lean into the receiver a little bit even before the receiver breaks. Confirms looking at the quarterback that he goes to load up and throw the ball. We're going to see the acceleration from him to close the ground here to this receiver. And then he plays the ball very well. Unfortunately, it's a little bit like grainy and it doesn't catch it as cleanly as I want it to right there. But it's a very good job by Pons bailing, slow playing a little bit. He's not in a full sprint. Has faith in himself that if he were to try to squirt behind him a little bit right here, it's very tight ground, or it's very tight right there. So he can play in this bail. Again, looking at the quarterback, confident in himself, breaks in the ball, pass deflection. Awesome job from Pons there. And we'll get some better videos of like the pass deflection, some of the technique that he has when he's doing that. So this is another play just showing off some of the smarts of Pons. So top of the screen right here. We'll let it play out. He blows up the screen and then we'll talk about it. So changing up his leverage a little bit right there, just because of the running back coming into motion to the slot, just changing up exactly where he's going to be aligned, just showing the offense a different look, or maybe he just doesn't want to be too tight to the receiver, so he could play the flats a little bit better, regardless of whatever it is and why he changes his leverage. It's fine. Confirms with his eyes, again, doing a good job of just reading the situation, reading the quarterback. So he sees the motion into the slot right there. sees the motion into the slot, running back immediately looking back for the ball, short drop, right? So typically seeing the short drop, seeing the eyes, it's going to be a screen right here. So takes off, right? Outside in, tackle for loss for 2 yards from Pons here. And it's smart in another way too, not just him reading the running back and the running back and the quarterback here, but it's also smart. And just because Pons knows that he has a safety over the top right here, right? So if he doesn't have a safety over the top, and let's say this is more of like the safety is rotated right here to the field side, and he has the only deep coverage right here, he probably can't bite on this as hard as he does. But because he knows he has that safety behind him, he can get really aggressive here in playing the flat. Because if he were to push vertical, the safety's there to kind of clean it up for him. So situationally as well, knowing you have the help over the top, again, reading the running back, reading the short drop and the eyes of the quarterback right there to shut down the screen pass to the running back who's flexed out into the slot is excellent from Pons. So a very, very smart player, no doubt about it. So let's see, pass deflection. This is from Pons. He's in coverage right here on the receiver to the bottom of the screen. And he plays this ball about as good as you can possibly play it. And we'll go over it a little bit and like some of the technical things he does here and why it's so important. But does a really good job in soft shoe coverage right there. Now, there is some times where Pons, and this is the one thing I do think he needs to clean up and press a little bit. There is times where his hands can drop like they do right here. You don't really want your hands ever dropping below your knees. And there is times where his hands can drop and he can get his weight onto his heels a little bit. And when your weight on your heels, obviously you're not going to be leaning forward. You're not going to be able to react to quickly as movement or to movement. So opens up right here. Again, watch dropping the hands a little bit, but opens up with the receiver, gets hands on the route quickly, matches the in break, has hands on right here, and then he plays the ball again very well right here, which we'll talk about right now. So what he does here, it's important. So with his left arm, he's going to wrap the left hip of the receiver, right? So when he wraps that hip, he's going to naturally just pull the hip, and when he pulls that hip, one arm is longer than two. So when you pull with your left arm, your right arm is now longer. So that's the first thing. And obviously, when he pulls this hip of the receiver, the upper body naturally follows the lower half. So you're kind of turning him away from the catch point as well. Third thing with this is how he plays the ball in terms of stabbing through the hands, right? We want to stab through the hands because that's where the ball is going to be going. And then secondarily with the stab too, it's another little nerdy thing that's important with it is you want to stab versus swipe when you're playing the ball. And why do you want to stab versus swipe? So when you stab, right, when your arm is going quite literally through it and stabbing, if you were to miss the ball, or let's say the receiver were to catch the ball, when you're stabbing through to play a ball, then your arm is naturally going to wrap up around the thigh or the hip if the ball is caught. Whereas if you swipe at the ball and you miss the ball and it's to be caught, your body's naturally going down to the ground so you can miss the tackle. And then another thing with playing the ball, stab versus swipe, is when you swipe the ball, this is kind of hard to explain without like having a football or really being able to kind of do this over a camera, but think about it. Like when you swipe at something, like let's say the ball is on this, is on a level plane. When you swipe at something, it only gives you that tenth of a second where your hand is on that vertical plane of the ball. Whereas when you stab through it, you're giving yourself a lot more time as long as your hand is at the proper plane to play the ball. So again, nerdy stuff, but it's really important how he plays the ball, stab versus swipe there. So swipe brings you down to the ground, less time or less of a window to really hit that ball. Whereas when you stab, your hand is in there longer and it naturally wraps you up for the tackle after. So really good in terms of the technique with him there. Bottom of the screen on this one, this is the last one without a arrow on him, I believe. So this one, again, you're going to see him jump split a little bit where like his hands kind of drop and his weight goes onto his heels, which I do want to see him eliminate at the NFL level. I just want to see him be a little bit more control of his feet, and we'll see how that hurts him in a little bit. But bottom of the screen, let's watch it. And we'll talk about why it's just such a good rep from him right there. What just completely locks down that receiver in man coverage. So he does an excellent job. Again, watch the hop. When you hop like this, quite literally, we do not have contact with the ground. When we don't have contact with the ground, we can't change direction, right? So I do want to see the elimination of this movement from him at times, but is able to stay square on the receiver, and that's a really important part. Shoots with the on hand. right? Which is the right hand, right? The direction the receiver is going is the on hand. So the right hand in this instance is his on hand. Stab into the chest. But what we don't want to do right here is we don't want to lean into it so heavy, because receivers, obviously, if they're going to be crossing our face, I'm getting a little bit more into the intricacies this time. So if you want me to, I don't know if I should expedite, but getting a little bit more into the intricacies.
People enjoy this. No, this is the good stuff, man. This is what May football talk is all about.
Yeah, so when you stab with this right hand, if you're leaning really heavy into the stab with the right hand, receivers, when they're crossing your face, are obviously going to try to punch through that hand, right? So whether it be chopping through it, punching through it, wiping it away, if you put a lot of your balance into the right arm right here, again, that you should be prepared for them chopping it down. So then a lot of guys, you'll see them in this instance, they'll kind of hold their hand out there, and then they get chopped, and then they're completely off balance. But what Pons does is very important, because he goes on hand, immediately replaces it with the off hand. So just the right to the left movement right here is so important for him to stay balanced and on this route. Then grabs a shoulder pad. He can get a tiny bit grabby, and you can see a little bit at the top here where you want to get the jersey right here. He can get a little bit tuggy, but it's not called. As long as you keep your elbow somewhat like kind of tight to your body and your arm's not full extension, they won't call it. But very, very good job on hand to off hand right there, replacing the hand, stay on top of the route from Pons. These are two about mindset. This is one of the, I love Pons for these next two plays. I really, really do. It's what made me fall in love with this player. If you can't tell where he is, then we have issues. But Vega Ione is the left guard right here, who is about 330 pounds. Pons is 180. So there's a 180-pound weight difference. He eventually gets to the second level right here. And Pons takes this block on and actually gets involved in the tackle, taking on a guy who's 150 pounds more than him. It's just ridiculous from Pons. So again, this is a mindset thing from him, not cowering away from the block. A lot of guys will try to dodge it, try to get lateral on it, but Pons wants to play this outside in, takes on the block with good leverage. Let's see. Nice and square, good leverage, hands inside. Again, not dodging him at all. If anything, he's kind of like squeezing the gap a little bit. Is able to stand Vega up. Now, again, he's not going to consistently do this, but in this instance, he gets lower than him. He gets the hands inside. He's somewhat able to stand Vega up, get his eyes back inside, and then get involved in the tackle. And I should have clipped it for an extra second here, but Vega then like hangs on his back and kind of shoves him into the ground after the play, because I don't think he's happy that a 180-pound corner just made a tackle through him. So again, just ridiculous in terms of the mindset of a player like this. And I think people saying he'll play in the slot, or like, kind of prognosticating he's going to play in the slot, I think it's like a discredit to him as a player. But one of my reasons for wanting him to play in the slot, and I think he will play a little bit of both, is that obviously when you're in the slot, you're more involved in the run fits, and I want this guy involved in the run game for the Jets. So it's not a slight. And also, with that being said, I think he's the best in terms of like value added to the team. I think the Jets have better outside corners than they do inside corners. So, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But love the mindset right there, taking on Vega, and then is able to get involved in the tackle. And then this next one, he gets absolutely mollywopped here. He gets destroyed, but it's not the point of this play. This is another one just showing straight up mindset. So some people are going to watch this, and he's to the left side of the screen right here, and be like, why the hell would you even include this? But again, it's a mindset thing from him. So the left tackle right here, again, crushes him. But I believe, and I don't know his exact weight, but he looks like he's probably 6'7", 350, 360. I think he's a mammoth of a human being. You can see how big he is compared to some of the other offensive linemen. So you're talking about nearly a 200-pound weight difference from him to Pons. And Pons, again, is not a guy who's going to dodge blocks or anything like that. And obviously, in certain instances, you want to, but he wants to play this outside in, because he doesn't want to allow the running back to get outside of him. So he's going to try to squeeze this run to the inside. Again, pursuit comes from the inside, not the outside. So takes it on with, again, the proper way. But again, gets absolutely mollywopped, and he knows it's coming. But having the balls to just stand in there and take on that block is ridiculous. You can kind of see him probably getting some shit talked to him by the Miami sideline right there, but doesn't really care, kind of laughs it off a little bit. But again, the mindset of him to do that is excellent. So love that play from Pons. I got about 5 left of the positive. Let's see.
Let's go. D'Angelo Pons film breakdown. Hit the like, people. Joe Blewett giving us content in early May. If you're joining us live, we got a great giveaway today. It's a Curtis Martin signed helmet. No one's entered during the show. And I don't like that. So I'm going to gift one right now. If you get a membership from me, you're in the Asmaniac raffle for one for the Curtis Martin signed helmet up for grabs at the end of the show. One from yours truly on the way. Let's go. Rob Damob is the recipient of the gifted membership from me. So, Rob, I'm putting you in for one. All right. D'Angelo Pons. I'm loving what I've seen so far. Joe Blewett, again, full screen. Here we go. Take it away.
Yeah. So Pons to the top of the screen right here. This is a play against Alabama. Ty Simpson's going to hit the seam right here really quickly, and in some instances, like a good play call versus a defense, you're going to get beat. On this play, the seam is weak in cover 3, so I'll show you what happens here. But just focus on the hit, and again, we'll get into a little bit more of the intricacies after. But just focus on the hit from Pons here to Ryan Williams. So again, a guy who's 180 pounds. He's not slender like Sauce Gardner or anything like that. Like, he definitely fills out his frame. So he's strong relative to his size right here. And people be like, oh, well, he was beating the seam right here. Like, why is this a good play? One, it's more so because of the hit. And two, when you talk about, again, a seam in cover 3, the problem is here, if people are saying, oh, well, he should match him quicker, he should get there quicker. Not going to be true at all, because if he was to match this quicker and bite down this really hard, quarterback is typically going to read inside out here. If it's verticals, if he bites hard on this too quickly, the vertical to the outside is wide open. So he can't close down this too quickly. But once he sees Ty Simpson loading up to throw that ball, he bites down on it quickly, contests the catch point right with the hit. Now Ryan Williams, who drops everything, is actually able to hold on to the ball through this contact. But you can see he absolutely mollywops him, flat on his back right there. So again, Pons has some hit power to him, which is nice. And you're going to see that on another play where he actually forces the ball loose, but it's another one where he does a really good job. This is another one where he's in a cover 3. I believe it's a cover 3. So let's watch it first, and then we'll talk about it a little bit after. And this is obviously in the national championship game against Miami, but a similar deal where it looks like they're rotating to a 3. So we got outside third, inside third, but he's just rotating into it, staying a little bit more tight to the boundary side here because the quarterback's looking that way. But it's a similar situation where Pons is put in a little bit of a tough spot when you're that outside third, and there's a post here, post wheel. So typically, you're going to read 1 to 2 to flat right here, and he can't bite too hard on this, because if he bites too hard on this, one, obviously you're passing it off to your inside third safety, so you don't want to bite too hard on it. But if you are to bite too hard on it, then the wheel behind it's going to be wide open. So Pons does a good job of splitting the difference in this scenario, just like he did on the last play. You have to split the difference vertically, so you're not getting roasted. So splits the difference, eyes back to Carson Beck, sees that Carson Beck is obviously throws the ball or is going to throw the ball, flips his hips, gets outside, contests the catch point, shoulder to shoulder, blows up 87, and forces the incompletion there. So just excellent eyes, excellent in terms of like leveraging him. This is when you hear, like, in my scouting reports, or if people do read them, like leveraging himself over route concepts. This is what I mean. This type of thing gets you the notch of, again, leveraging properly over route concepts. So perfect job splitting the middle, reading the eyes, flipping the hips, speed to get outside, hit, clean hit. It's shoulder to shoulder. There was no flag there. Absurd play from Pons. Okay, let's see. That was 28. Okay, so I got 4 more left of the good. Pons pick 6. I heard Sabo reference this one a few times in terms of like maybe this was a pregame type of thing where Cignetti wanted him to play it aggressively, and it could be a thing where pregame they're telling players their opponents' tendencies, which happens. Hey, this team likes to throw speed outs on first down in this situation, whatever it may be. But Pons does this stuff enough where he reads the quarterbacks and drops that leads me to believe that this is a Pons play. Now maybe it could be Cignetti or or the defensive coordinator or the defensive backs coach, but let's watch him here. But it's another situation where, just like the first play of the game, he reads the quarterback's drops. So isolated receiver side, right? And we'll talk. Let me just play it first, and we'll talk about all the little stuff he's reading in some of his keys that could get him to jump this play. So this is another one where they're rotating into a cover 3, but again, similarly to the first play, You have 4 passing threats here, right? 1 passing threat here. If he opens immediately to this side, this route is 9 times out of 10 be in accordance with the drop. So if it's a short drop, 1-step drop, 3-step drop, again, speed outs, flats, drags, that type of deal. 5-step, we're talking about intermediate routes. 7 steps, we're talking about the deep routes. So you have Pons to the bottom, again, reads the eyes. So now we confirm that he's looking our way. Now we confirm short drop. And while he's also reading this, if he is reading the receiver, we always talk about like the drive phase and selling the drive phase and when the shoulders come up, right? So when the shoulders are up, that's going to typically indicate that a break is coming. Shoulders down, okay, we're pushing vertical. Now guys can sell you different shoulder techniques to get open on you. But once he sees short drop from the quarterback and the shoulders up like they're up right now, instead of down like they are initially, see shoulders down, shoulders a little bit more up. Okay. So anticipate potentially a break coming. Short drop again. Has faith in himself. He has good leverage on the speed out that he could time this, undercut the route, acceleration, ball skills, touchdown. So he's a very smart player on top of being a very athletic player. And when you pair those two things, you're going to get pick sixes. Now, there may be a player or two where he's beat. He's a little bit flat-footed and off coverage because he's a little bit aggressive, but there's more good than bad with him playing aggressively as he does. And again, this is not a thing where, and it could be a thing again, pregame, hey, look out for this, but he does this plenty where he reads drops, he reads eyes, he knows, okay, isolated receiver, this is probably going to be a quick hitter type of play. And he processes that all within half a second, jumps it, pick 6 to start that game. And 5 seconds before that, everybody was in on Dante Moore, and then everybody's out on Dante Moore. So
it's funny. We're all watching that game for Moore, and it's Pons makes the play, first pass, and we're like, funny how it all worked out. Now Pons being a Jet.
Yeah. And again, one of the more favorite players I've watched in the last decade, legitimately. So top of the screen right here, and this is nothing crazy. This is more like that click and close in the run game and how well he plays it, right? So starts to drop back into coverage. Obviously sees the receiver working inside on a crack block and the offensive line all run blocking. So what I like here is how quickly he closes ground. Again, that more outside an angle. But once he closes ground, he does a really good job of gathering his feet and not overrunning the play. So quick to trigger on it, closes ground quickly, but runs his feet. You can see him like really run the feet really, really hot right there. See how choppy the steps are. Again, just allowing himself quick change of direction. Again, not overrunning the play, clicking and closing, outside at an angle. Runs the feet right there. Gets hands on the running back, makes a tackle by himself. Excellent in the run game. Now, NFL level, might he get dragged versus Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry at times? Yeah, obviously it's possible, but I didn't watch any plays at Indiana. I'm like, the size is a massive issue right here with him not being able to tackle guys. So 2 plays left right here. Pons top. And one thing I'll point out, and again, I don't want to get too much into the intricacies every play just because, it'd take forever. But what you notice here from Pons, and just notice it right off the jump, is how good the pre-snap stance is for him, which is important. If guys stand a little bit more straight up pre-snap, their bodies kind of overreact to movements. And that's when you see guys jump splitting, which is basically both of your feet just widening. What a lot of guys do is they teach like a kick step where either the right foot or the left foot comes out, and it's just to maintain your balance. But if you don't do that and you're high, again, you tend to lean on the heels, jump split a little bit, and then you're not able to make quick movements. So his stance is very, very good right here. Sorry, clear my throat. Yeah, but the stance is good in terms of the knee bend, and then also where his eyes are too. And it's another thing you want to look out for defensive backs. The eyes are on the hips. The eyes are not on the head. The head lies, the hips don't. So his eyes are you can tell the helmet angle, how they're nice and low onto the hips. Good snap pre-stance. We'll play it. Again, does a very good job right there. Just white on rice. Really patient feet, right? Receiver stems at him. Patient feet. Forward lean, small choppy steps, isn't overreacting to movements. Receiver obviously starts to take it vertical into the outside, gets the offhand jam on, right? Again, the right hand is away, so that's the offhand. Gets the offhand jam on. Receiver tries to use like a throw by at the top where he's going to put his left hand onto the back of Pons and push him by. So it's a mutual combat here. So Pons is now going to be allowed to get a little bit more physical because he's getting thrown by. So now he grabs the shoulder pad, pulls himself back onto the route. There's little to no separation there. And then again, does a good job of playing through the hands right here. I'm doing it in slow motion, stabbing. It doesn't let me kind of drag it at the end right there, but doing a really good job of stabbing through those hands, playing that ball. So excellent play by him. Patience at the line, offhand jam, pulling himself through, physicality at the top of the break. All really good from Pons. Pons versus Sadiq to the bottom of the screen right here. Obviously, you can see the matchup.
Real quick, very important. When you were going through this and you were watching Pons and now you see him against Sadiq, would you say he's a certified freak 7 days a week?
Yeah, I was obsessed with Sadiq, certified freak, 7 days a week, certified freak. Obsessed with Sadiq, certified freak, 7 days a week. Certified. Obsessed with Sadiq, 7 days a week.
7 days a week.
Certified freak.
Continue, Joe.
Yeah, so this is, you know how like people, and I think this is a good example of like, oh, he's bigger than all the safeties he's going to go against, so he's automatically going to get open on them. Or, oh, the linebackers he's against, he's faster than, so he's automatically going to get open on them. And while I like Sadiq, that the freakish athleticism stuff, when you have the technique already, right? Like you can't just rely purely on athleticism, right? Because then guys like Marquise Goodwin would be killing it, or John Ross, or Doyle Green Beckham, or whoever else it is. So those little differences in athleticism and vertical jump and in speed and ability to get out of breaks all matters when you have good technique. But when people talk about Sadiq, they tend to be like, oh, well, he's just bigger than guys, or he's stronger than guys, so he's automatically going to get open. Then he would have gotten open every time on Pons, but Pons locked him up when he was playing against Sadiq. So you have to have, again, good technique with a certified freak. So bottom of the screen right here, he locks him up. And again, it's technique needs to be first. It's 90% technical and mental, the NFL game, 10%. Obviously it's fit, there's a lot of physicality and stuff, but what separates guys is the technical stuff and the mental stuff. And you can see that with Pons' game. So good job in coverage right here, in man coverage on Sadiq. Stays square. Sadiq stems him to the outside with like a shuffle release to the outside. He doesn't kind of explode to the outside as quickly as he should. Like he's not really threatening as much as he should right there. He's not really selling vertical. It's a little bit too slow. So Pons is able to stay square, get hands on to Sadiq. Physicality, right? Staying over top of the route. We have Sadiq, who at the top of the route right here with his left hand tries to throw him off. So Pons then is allowed to react with a little bit more physicality. He does grab the shoulder or the shoulder pad, so we do have to get careful with tugging a little bit from Pons. But he's all over that route. And again, when the tight end or the receivers need to be physical at the top of the route, we're able to respond with physicality as well for the most part. So locks up Sadiq right there. So don't just rely on like, oh, well, he's bigger, he's faster, he's automatically going to get open. There's a little bit more rawness to Sadiq's game. And I do think he'll be a little bit more of a slow burn maybe than some other people think he will. I think year 2, 3, 4 is when you're really going to see him go off. I see people like, oh, rookie of the year stuff with him. I'm not going to go there yet with Sadiq, and we'll talk about him in a few weeks probably from now. So
hey, Joe, how often did Pons go up against Sadiq in that game? Like, was that the only time they went head to head, or there were several reps?
Yeah. So obviously, it's hard to remember exactly in that game because I watched thousands of reps, but there's at least 2 reps where Pons went up against him in man coverage. There's that one, and then when we did the Sadiq review a couple of months ago before the draft, he locked him up again, and we weren't even talking about Pons, so we even point out that it was Pons that locked him up. But there's at least 2 reps where he went against him where Sadiq didn't even get close to creating separation on him. There might have been more reps, obviously, but I watched this already like a month ago, so I transparently can't remember if there was more than 2. So let me see. This is now some of the weaknesses with him, and really, there's not a large list of weaknesses for him, like technical wise or technique wise. For size, right, is going to hurt him a little bit at times, and we'll see that a little bit in the weaknesses portion right here. But the technical part of it is more so the hands dropping and jump splitting when he's in press coverage and getting the weight on the heels. I just want to see him have more control of the feet consistently, and maybe even get hands on a little bit earlier in press. This is one you can see him get a little bit flat-footed. He's at the bottom of the screen right here against Jeremiah Smith, obviously the best receiver in college football this season and going into next season as well. So he's beat, but obviously versus a very good receiver. But the receivers are going to look closer to Jeremiah Smith at the NFL level. So he gets beat vertically there, and what should be a touchdown, which, by the way, for your Saiyan people, I'm not so sure. I'm loving Saiyan first-round talk. I watch him, I think, more of like a second or third-round guy, but that's a story for a different day.
We've got another year.
Yeah. And like, this is the thing with like Sorsby or whoever else it is. Like, you can have guys who rise like Mendoza did, or you can have guys who fell like Klubnik did, or like Nussmeier did. So Saiyan can go from a second, third round guy to a first round guy, or he can go from a second, third round guy to Garrett Nussmeier or Klubnik or whatever it may be. So with Pons right here, again, he gets a little bit too aggressive in terms of just the inactivity in the feet. Watch him backpedal. Once he gets to like the 35-yard line right there, you see how we have some inactivity, and he starts to lean forward like pretty heavily, and the feet get very inactive. And Smith just blows by him with physicality. You want to read the shoulders like we were talking about before when we're seeing guys sell the drive phase, right? Just based on what I said before, I'm not putting anybody on the spot here, but this is selling vertical, right? Like, we see how far the shoulders are down, still selling vertical. Like, look how far his body is down right here. In no way is it looking like he's going to break short right here on like a speed out or anything like that. So he is showing vertical all the way right there. Again, Pons kind of sits on the 35-yard line. Needs to stay a little bit more into his back pedal just to be able to match again, match him vertically here. Gets pushed by, should be beat for a 60-yard touchdown, 70-yard touchdown, whatever exactly it was. But Saiyan underthrows it, but can't be as flat-footed as he is right there. So again, technique-wise, you see some of that with him being a little bit over-aggressive. But then this is where some of the size stuff comes in. And quickly, not to get like a rant or anything like that, or into big like a rabbit hole, but I think just in general, people do tend to like overrate size with receivers. No, we can't have one receiver because he's not a big guy, or we need a big corner next to a small corner. He's gonna get consistently bodied because he's a smaller corner. You're not really gonna see it a ton. Like, there's not a lot of situations in the NFL where it's like, small receiver on big receiver, I'm just gonna chuck the ball up. Now there is some instances where that will happen, right? Like Pons versus T. Higgins in the red zone. Okay, Bengals may dial up a fade right there, but for the most part, if you're over top of your guy or you're covering the route, they're not going to throw the ball. It's not just going to be like, we'll chuck it up versus Pons every play because he's small on the outside. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of it in this situation. In terms of the size with Pons, what I am a little not concerned about, but the weaknesses is really going to come not in like jump balls and stuff, and that will hurt him. But you're going to see it more rep by rep when it comes to like, okay, top of the curl route, he's going to try to throw me by, or before a dig route, like he's going to lean into me before his break and then snap it off. I have concerns about him at the top of routes getting thrown by and pushed off more so than, it's just going to be a jump ball every play versus Pons. So you're not really going to see that a ton. But here you're going to see like strictly this is size for Pons, because he actually plays this fade really, really well here from Jeremiah Smith. Unfortunately, he's just an inch or two too short and he gets beat. Obviously, it's going to be a great catch by Jeremiah Smith, but let's watch it. And again, this is where you could see some of the size stuff. But again, for the most part, it's going to be matching the physicality, not the physicality, just the size of the top of some breaks. So we'll talk about the technique in a second. And obviously a very good catch by Jeremiah Smith right there, but does a good job, right? Pre-snap stance is awesome. Eyes super low. There's no way they're on the helmet. They're on the hips right here. Nice knee bend, good shoulder width apart. So excellent job from him pre-snap right there. Does a good job of with the kick step, right? Kick step, little bit of weight onto the heels, but he still is forward lean. So he has nice balance. Again, I like to see the hands a little bit higher. Jeremiah Smith stems it to the outside, opens up with Jeremiah Smith, gets hands on. Again, is over top of the route, is now squeezing it to the sideline, gets the eyes back to the ball. Unfortunately, and we'll see it from the other angle, he's just a little bit too short. Like, so you can see this at times. Again, if his arm was maybe, it's hard to see exactly where the ball is with the freeze frame. It might hit him like in the shoulder right here. He's just a little bit too short. But again, I don't think that's going to show up as much as some other people think it will. This is the last one. This is where you see, so we saw the size, we saw the aggression playing flat-footed and off coverage. And this is where you could see his movements with his lower half get a little bit too big in press coverage. And then you kind of tend to overreact when you're not in control of your body. So he's in off coverage right here against this receiver. Let's watch it. He gets beat on the slant. And again, I just want more control of the lower half with him. So we can see as he's impressed, he kind of hops back right here. And now the weight is going to be more so on the heels. Receiver stems him to the outside, and then he kind of head nods. He head nods outside, right? Head nod outside, inside to then get back outside to, and so he's dancing a little bit here, transparently, the receiver. So this is not always going to happen at the NFL level. You're not going to have that much time on a slant. But with Pons, what beats him right here is, again, just the overreaction to movement because he's not in control of his base. So big step right there with the left foot. Another big step with the right. Now he's kind of throwing himself backwards. His weight's kind of all over the place. He tries to catch the receiver. Now the receiver lands his hand into the chest and is able to throw him by at the top of the route right there. And Pons is going to really get thrown by right there just because he's not balanced. Gets beat pretty badly on the slant. So I want to see less hopping of the feet and just more control, because it's not going to result in these big movements right here from Pons. Big movement, big movement. Big movement. Again, just control of the feet will thwart that a little bit, and then he'll be able to stay on routes better. But again, there's a little bit of concern with him getting thrown by like that at the NFL level because he's 180 pounds and he'll be seeing guys who are 210, 220. So that's really it for the weaknesses, though, in terms of like a list or anything like that. Like it's not it's not like a huge list of weaknesses. It's very small, the technical stuff.
So your thoughts on his role right away? Is he a week one starter on this defense?
Yeah, I do. I think he's a starter now. Where does he play exactly? It's gonna be interesting to see, because I could.
Do you trust Aaron Glenn to know where to use him? I mean, honestly, say whatever you want about Glenn, but if he can't figure out how to use a carbon copy of himself, I mean, what can he do? Yeah,
no, exactly. I'm hoping he can deploy him correctly. When he was with the Lions, obviously it's not like the best resume in the world, but he was at least he was throwing out like a good defense in his final year, obviously with a lot of injuries and stuff like that. So the arrow is kind of pointing up for Aaron Glenn. So I have at least a little bit of faith in him to use Pons correctly. Now, how exactly are they going to use him? I could see him playing outside. I truly could. Like if he plays outside this season, I see a world where he's better than Stevens, better than AZ Thomas. I think for the biggest impact on the defense, in terms of where he's just going to make the biggest impact, I'm more comfortable with the Jets' outside corners than I am with the slot corners at this point. And when you're in the slot, you can play the run game more than obviously on the outside. So you're more involved in the run fits, and he's very willing and good in the run game. So I would like to see him there. I see him eventually maybe being a guy who flexes inside and outside depending on the matchup, right? Like let's say it's a guy who's more shifty and fast on the outside. He can go and match up against him in certain weeks, but maybe not this season because it's a lot on his plate. But I could see a world where, hey, Jets are in base 4-3 or 3-4 because the other team's in 12 or 13 personnel and there is no slot. Play Pons on the outside and have Stevens on the bench. But once it's like 11 personnel, 10 personnel, anything where you're going to nickel or dime or anything like that, then put him in the slot and put Stevens back in the game or AZ Thomas back in the game. So I see him eventually doing that. Year one, I do see him playing slot, just strictly slot. But maybe there's a world he really impresses in camp and picks it up quickly because of how smart he is, and he plays outside and inside. I do see the size hurting him a little bit on the outside, maybe just not as drastically as some other people think it would. For the best impact on the team, I think it's going to be the slot.
All right, Asmaniacs, listen up for a second. No matter what you're watching, whether it's New York sports or any game you didn't plan on caring about, there's no better way to stay locked in than with PrizePicks. It's daily fantasy made simple. You're just picking more or less on player projections. That's it. No complicated lineups, no nonsense. Just you versus the numbers. And here's why I love it. Even if it's a game you normally wouldn't care about, once you got a lineup going, you're locked in. Every play matters, every drive matters, every at-bat matters. I've been mixing sports too. Maybe a little football, throw in some baseball, maybe some basketball, and now you've got action across the board all night, and PrizePicks makes it even better with features like early cash outs if your picks are hitting, the ability to mix multiple sports in one lineup, and you can even see what other people are playing and tail their picks. So if you haven't tried it yet, what are you doing? Download the PrizePicks app right now. Use code HMA. That's HMA. And you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, it's HMA on PrizePicks. PrizePicks, where it always feels good to be right. PBM in for two. He goes, I think Pons has given us all a Woody Johnson, maybe even a Chubb for club. In your review, has Pons made a jump but missed and the wide receiver got a huge gain? Is that a risk with NFL wide receivers?
Has Pons made a jump but missed the receiver and got a huge game?
Because he jumped in the air and like missed, and like the receiver came down with the ball and then got a huge gain because he jumped.
No. Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that. I would say more so in terms of like if you're talking about the aggression, you could see him sitting a little bit flat-footed, like 10 to 15 yards off at times. And then a guy will work past him with the physicality, because if you're going to sit on top of a route like that, flat-footed, you have to be very confident in being able to match the movement at the top of the route and play with physicality. Because if you're running 20 miles per hour and I'm sitting there backpedaling at 5, if I'm physical and I can attach myself to the route as you're kind of pushing past me, then fine. But the problem is Pons doesn't have that size, so it gets even more daring for him to sit on routes at times. But it's going to come with his game. Like, he's going to get beat because he's sitting on a route a little bit at times. But then he's also going to jump a pass for a pick 6, you know. Now there's ways to read it a little bit better. Like I said, on that play with Jeremiah Smith, his shoulders were very, very down. So at that point, you really do have to anticipate the route being more so, you know, post vertical, anything like that. But yeah, in general, it's like, again, you're going to see that so little where it's, oh, Pons is smaller than T Higgins, let's just throw the ball up there. Like, that's not going to happen a lot. Again, more so the size is going to be, hey, you know, in breaker, I'm pushing off on you to the outside, and then you're going to try to match my break to the inside. It's not going to just be, hey, jump ball type stuff as much.
Hey, here's the deal. Just got no chance unless you click on that like button. And you got to make sure you subscribe to the Jake Asman Show. You don't, you can get the f*** out. Now let's go, Asmaniacs. We're built for this shit.